Oh boy, look who it is. I hope you guys are doing well. Is today Wednesday? I have no idea what today is. I don't even know where I've been. I've been out and about getting sunburnt. While all kinds of 49ers drama has been stirring up. This is my first time talking to you guys, I think, since last Tuesday. Think it's been last Tuesday since I've talked to you all. Shout out to SDS. We see you guys vibing with your boy. Drop a SDS. It's been a while. It's been a while, and there's been a lot of stuff to go on, and this is going to be my first time actually talking about the Deebo Samuel situation, the 49ers kind of back and forth with the social media. And the ongoing drama that continues to that continues today even we got it, so let's talk about it. I will warn you guys. Shout out Lake City, we see you. Shout out everyone hopping in. Shout out everyone smashing that like button. It's been a while. I feel like I got to get back onto the bike again and figure out how to do this. No, I'm just kidding. But I will warn you guys. I'm off like 0 hours of sleep. Traveled all morning with my family. We got in today. I got no sleep. So it's going to be interesting to see how the energy levels hold up. It's going to be interesting to see what words actually come out of my mouth today, because I'm a little loopy, but hey, I wanted to talk about it. It's been a long time. And I want to get a feel for how you guys feel about it. How do you guys feel about this whole situation with Deebo Samuel unfollowing the San Francisco 49ers, scrubbing, some posts? I think someone had a number of how many posts he took off his page, and it's a pretty substantial number, and they all kind of related to him and his 49ers gear. What do you guys think about that? Concern? No concern? What's up, Cash the God? Oh, it's Cash the God's birthday today. Let's go. Give the boy a birthday shout out in the chat. Shout out Cash the God. OGSDS. We see you. Let's see what we got here. Boomer says Deebo is 1 foot out the door, it seems like. Jaden says, let's just say it was a shock for me. Farrell says we need Deebo hands down. This actually, he didn't tweet this. This was from one of his homies. Posted it to Instagram, and the caption was, if it's not 25 million, we don't want it. So it wasn't necessarily him that said it, but he did like the post and he commented on it because it's his homie. So what do you expect? Shout out Paul. We see you from over the pond over there. Shout out you for tuning in. Crispin says, I saw this coming since we started putting him all over. He made comments about it in season 2. He made comments about it in season, about them playing him at running back. I remember him making a comment about, like, they better not try to pay me like a running back. So, and we knew this was the year with how he was playing, that he was going to be eligible for a contract, and it was likely going to come this year, or into this offseason. So it's going to be interesting, because now the conversation, it feels like the milestone is now, like, the talking points, at least that I'm seeing on Twitter and things like that. It does feel like everyone's kind of setting that bar at 25 million on average per year. And we're going to get into the numbers and compare and contrast, and we'll get into all that. But let's start with just, what we're seeing, the social media activity, all those types of things. Of course, you guys know, I'm sure, and if you don't know, I feel very qualified to talk about this subject. As you guys know, you've seen my Instagram, you've seen the platforms that we have and how many followers that we've been able to get on all these platforms. And again, a major focus of the growth of the SF Niners brand is around the athletes. We like to call ourselves, player advocates. We're always looking out for the best interest of the players. Again, we love the 49ers and we're always going to root for the 49ers, but we are a little different in the sense that we like to advocate for the players, and we like to feel like we can give them a little bit of a voice that typically athletes don't have. That's why I think we are seeing the scrub go down. That's why we are seeing the movements on social media, because this is how they communicate. If you take a step back of this entire situation, when you observe players going through contract negotiations, and those things are going on, there's a reason you don't hear about it. There's a reason they don't talk about it. There's a reason they don't tell you everything that goes in and out. Like, hey, X player almost actually got traded during this negotiation, or hey, X player, we almost walked out. You even had Frank Gore tell his stories about negotiating with the 49ers, negotiating twice with the 49ers. One time he sat in on the meetings, I believe, with Parag Marate, and he couldn't believe what they were saying about him. And this was, I think, after he had just rushed for 1,600 rushing yards. It was Frank Gore. And he talked about how he had to walk out about the situation. We didn't hear anything about that when it was going on in real time. Then he talked about the situation where he went into a second contract with the San Francisco 49ers. He actually held out in training camp. He held out for 3 days. He came back on the third day, and Jed York approached him and was like, why'd you hold out? Why didn't you show up, man? We're going to take care of you. And so that kind of gets me into the process of the timing and the way the 49ers seemingly negotiate or go about getting their contracts done. Something that they do and that I've noticed is that timing. They are always going to drag this out till the 11th hour. Look at Trent Williams, look at George Kittle, look at Fred Warner. None of those deals were done with expediency. To look at Frank Gore, 49ers legend. That dude had to hold out. So there is a pretty consistent kind of track record that the 49ers have with how they do business with their best players. So Deebo Samuel falls into that category. Deebo Samuel is one of the best players on the San Francisco 49ers. There's no ifs, ands. You can't question it. Deebo Samuel, you could make the argument, carried the 49ers offense to the playoffs last year. Figuratively, literally, whatever you want to say. The impact that Deebo Samuel had to the San Francisco 49ers in their playoff run to the NFC Championship is one of the most special performances I've seen in a long time from one singular player. And it's not like it was just Deebo. There's a lot of people helping along the way, a lot of good scheme, a lot of good blocking, all that kind of stuff meshing together. But at the same time, Deebo had to, step into the running back role. He really elevated his game to help the 49ers be successful. So there's no question that Deebo Samuel is deserving of a contract now, heading into his fourth year. As we know, he's a second-round draft pick, so there's no fifth-year option. So after this year, he will be a free agent. So typically how we've seen it happen across the league, when you get into that kind of fourth year or heading into that fourth year, they're going to get you extended. Corey Soto says, forget the Instagram scrub. What's unprofessional is not training with Lance and Co. Max money should equal max quality. That includes leadership. Oh. So as you can see, and the whole kind of original point, what I was talking about, was these athletes don't broadcast their struggles with contract negotiations. And what you're starting to see is they're using social media to get their messages across. Because what do we talk about social media with athletes all the time? They have the opportunity to control their narrative for the first time in the history of sports. So what are we seeing? We are seeing these players do that. So now, okay, we understand that, right? But what does it mean? What does him unfollowing the 49ers mean? Like, what does him scrubbing the San Francisco 49ers from his Instagram mean? Why isn't, Deebo practicing with Ayuk and Trey Lance and Juwan Jennings and Ray McLeod and, you know, Connor Weddington and practice squad guys out there? Like, why isn't, so these are the questions that are posed, but in my opinion, it's all by design. And so you have to look really deeply into the nuance of social media. And let's be honest, not a lot of people are clued in yet into kind of the nuance that comes along with reading, interpreting, tracking, analyzing social media. If you guys haven't noticed, that's literally what I do is track, analyze social media of athletes, specifically San Francisco 49ers. So, perfect example, Deebo Samuel. I've probably seen every post that Deebo Samuel has made to his Instagram account since February of 2019, before he was a San Francisco 49er. So I, I know, like, and so when you're following these players, again, look at my page, look at my content. A lot of the content that we generate is from these players and how they interact in social media. So after you track and analyze for so long, you develop profiles, you develop trends. You're able to understand person is posting like that or what they're trying to get across and all those types of things. So with Deebo, in this situation of him unfollowing and him scrubbing, is his way of telling not only the San Francisco 49ers, because it's not about the San Francisco 49ers, he's sending that message to the rest of the NFL. And I think that's where, based on what I've seen from some of the chatter on Twitter, it's just, I don't think people are connecting those. Some people aren't connecting those dots. Is that it's not necessarily I don't think it's necessarily a message to the 49ers, because they are in communication. They can have those conversations behind closed doors through agents. They don't have to come out and openly say that. For me, in the way I'm interpreting it, the timing of it, I see Deebo Samuel scrubbing his Instagram, unfollowing the 49ers. That is a message to the rest of the NFL that, hey, this team isn't giving me what I want. And if they're not going to give me what I want, maybe someone else will come and give me what I want. And so what you have to think about, again, tying back to timing, the timing with this entire situation is that it's happening before the draft. And a lot of time before the draft. Not only a lot of time before the draft, but it's happening on the backs of Tyreek Hill getting $72 million guaranteed. It's on the back of Devontae Adams getting $65 million guaranteed. It's on the backs of Stephon Diggs getting $70 million guaranteed. Now, you have to ask yourself, do you think the 49ers, like, when they budgeted this situation out a couple months ago, maybe a year ago, did they anticipate the guaranteed money and the market exploding the way it has? So, with that situation being said, now again, this is how he uses the media to start to leverage contract negotiations. It also leverages a situation now where other teams can come in and provide potential offers or trades. Um, so it's a pretty interesting situation. Now, I don't necessarily believe that Deebo Samuel will get traded. However, I do believe it is something to pay attention to and something that we don't know. And again, I started the beginning of this talking about we don't hear from players during contract negotiations like this. Kyler Murray, we saw what happened with that. And that's recent. So you have to understand that Deebo Samuel knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. I have full confidence in Deebo and his group and his team that they totally understood what was going down, what was going to happen, what the talk was going to be, what the fan base reaction was going to. They knew these guys aren't dummies, and so they're pulling they're pulling the strings. They're like little puppeteers. They're like, what happens when we do this? Well, what happens when we do this? And they're starting to get a sense of the fan base. Hey, sense of the fan base is you can see half the fan base say, hey, we're off of Deebo, trade him for whatever haul. And the other half is like 49ers are crazy if you don't trade him. And now people are arguing about the value of Deebo Samuel. So what does that matter? Maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, like I said, you typically don't openly invite people outside of front offices, your agents, and close circles into kind of the back and forth of your contract negotiations. And again, the reason why my interests are peaked is because of the timing. Is because of the timing of it before the draft. Um, there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time to get a deal done. Deebo Samuel is under team control, whether he likes it or not, until the end of 2023. So the 49ers could theoretically say, we're not going to pay you. They could and make him play out his rookie deal and then hit him with a franchise tag. Now, we understand if that's what the 49ers were going to do, Deebo Samuel will not play for the San Francisco 49ers for much longer, because we understand the franchise tag is perceived as a slap in the face to a lot of these players, especially when you're in the prime of your career and it's time to collect the bag. It's time to get your money. The franchise tag is a bit of a no-no in certain situations. Obviously, you see teams slap players with the franchise tag to then be able to work out a long-term deal. But it's clear as day. It is clear as day that Deebo Samuel is making it known that he ain't playing on that rookie deal this year. So it's just going to be it. I'm fascinated by this situation. I'm fascinated because it's now out in the open. Again, I would imagine that the San Francisco 49ers aren't in love with this entire situation because, again, now look what we're talking about. Look what everyone's talking about. It's on national spots. It's on Pat McAfee, Ian Rappaport. Everyone is talking about it. You got Pat McAfee like, oh, we're going to trade. We're going to get him on the Colts. We're going to trade everyone. Get him on the Colts. So, again, it is going to be interesting to see. And shout out. Let me see if I can pull this up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. Let's see. Yeah, it's not going to let me to. Shout out all the SDS. We see you guys in here. So, this is a good question. Justin, shout out my boy. He says, do you think other teams are making offers? Think about it like this. From all reports, the New York Jets have tried to get multiple wide receivers, trade a lot of assets to acquire a top talent at wide receiver. So if they've tried Tyreek Hill, if they tried Stephon Diggs and they tried to go after these guys, why wouldn't what would stop them from having a conversation with the San Francisco 49ers, especially when they see the smoke billowing from Deebo Samuel's Instagram? That's how I would feel if I'm sitting there in the Jets. Like, man, we struck out on getting a wide receiver one this offseason. We were willing to pay everything to get one, pay the contract plus the compensation, and you're just sitting back, and all of a sudden Deebo scrubs everything about the 49ers um, from his page. I'm like, instantly, like, what's going on? You guys having a breakdown in contract negotiations? We got a lot of picks. Like, that's if I had to put myself in another team's shoes who is watching this situation play out from afar, my perception of this situation is Deebo Samuel just threw up the flag that he is available for trade. Does that mean the 49ers will trade him? No. Does that mean they like automatically won't come to a long-term contract extension? No. But if you are having a hard time gaining leverage with a historically uh frugal, I don't know if that's the right word, uh historically rigid front office when it comes to getting your money. I mean, you had Jimmy Ward talking about it yesterday on live, talking about Parag Marate, the negotiator, how he wants every dollar, every cent, and we have seen that. So how do you gain negotiation in this situation when you're under team control? You throw up the flag, say, "Hey, maybe I'm available for trade." And then the Jets come in and say, "Well, hey Kyle, we'll give you this pick, this player, that pick, and we will pay exactly what Deebo Samuel is asking for." So, I'm not sitting here saying anything's definitive. Not at all. But we are working through the ranges of outcomes. We're working through what him scrubbing his Instagram signals to. He doesn't care about the fan base, to be honest with you. I don't think he does. I think he's signaling this to other teams because if other teams start coming into the mix and they start, you know, potentially, let's say the 49ers say, well, they've offered a legitimate trade package. We will grant you an opportunity to potentially work out a deal. And if you like the deal and we like the deal, then let's do it. So, am I saying that's going to happen? Not at all. Not even close. My hope is that Deebo Samuel is a 49er for a long time. My hope is that Deebo Samuel gets the bag, gets the money he's deserving of, and is a 49er for a long time. But we understand this is a business, baby. They don't care about football right now. This is a business. This is about getting your paper, and that is it. They do not care about anything else right now, especially Deebo Samuel, especially his group. That's all they care about is getting the bag. That's it. That's it. They don't care about anything else. So what do you guys think though? This might be a good opportunity. Travis says I'm betting Deebo is going absolutely nowhere. What do you think? Do you think this is just pure smoke? Do you think this is just a leverage play? Do you think there is some validity to potentially a cuz I'm going to tell you how I see this. I see this as a bit of a breakdown. I don't see this as a positive. I don't see this as a typical normal situation. I don't. I'm looking at this situation like, oh boy, like my radar is full fledged like the second he did it. But I also recognize that the way I perceive social media is probably different than 99% of the people in existence today. So I know there's like a handful of people who do what I do and perceive the things the way that I perceive them, I know it's a very small group of people. So I wouldn't expect the majority to really be able to kind of wrap, their heads around like, oh, it's just unfollowing the 49ers. What's the big deal? That's a huge deal amidst a contract negotiation. Scrubbing his entire profile picture, posts. You got his boys sub posting. Oh, like he's paid attention to the entire social media handbook for athletes. He's read through it, and now he's adding his own chapter to it. So a lot. I don't think people are seeing it like that. But what Deebo Samuel is doing is, again, he's furthering the entire importance of social media and athletes, and how social media gives these athletes access to narrative. Like, look at the way Deebo destroyed the narrative. Just before Deebo flushed anything, I guarantee you we could have pulled every single 49er fan, and 99% like, Deebo's not going anywhere. But now it's like, well, I don't know. We'll see. Cap says Deebo for Brian Burns. Same draft class. Brian Burns was a first round draft pick. Deebo was a second round draft pick. I think I would need more. Yeah, and you guys know me. I'm a big Brian Burns fan. Big Brian Burns fan. But Deebo, in regards to his impact, he said, what? $500 super chat for your Lenore jersey? I mean, hey, I love my Lenore jersey. I wouldn't be looking to sell it, but hey, you wanna throw 500 on it? It's yours, my guy. You want to throw 500 on the Lenore? That's yours, my guy. Tell me where to ship it. No, I love that jersey though. It's sick. Let's see. I'm gonna try to look at some of your guys' comments. I've been kind of rambling. I had a lot of thoughts going in my head this last week. I've just been sitting at the pool, getting sunburnt, and just thinking about, I tried not to. And actually, I will have to say, I'm so happy that I was on. So happy that I was on vacation during this situation. So happy. I'm so happy this is the first time that I'm talking about this for however long it's been. I'm thrilled that you're hearing from me for the first time. Thrilled. Put that money towards the GoFundMe. Put that money towards the GoFundMe. So I look at it like this. I'm trying to figure out how I say this. From what I know about the 49ers, and I think it's safe to say I know a thing or two about the 49ers. And not just, from the football side of things, but, I'm around the team enough that, this part of the business, I know about that too. And, have some insight and things like that. And I know the 49ers are, they're tough. They are tough to deal with. From my limited knowledge of the situations that have happened. But I will say this. There is enough information from past situations that are leading up to the current to be able to recognize that, let's say, hey, okay, Deebo Samuel wants to get paid $25 million on average. Would you pay that? 5 years, 25 million per year. What does that come out to? Well, it's roughly around 125 million. The max value of that deal, right? At about an average salary of 25 million a year. Would you pay that? Would you feel comfortable with that? Because again, for reference, Tyreek Hill's getting 30 million per year on average. Devontae Adams is getting 28 million per year on average. DeAndre Hopkins is getting 27.25 million on average per year. And of course, Stephon Diggs, the latest wide receiver to get extended, 26 million on average. And then right below that is a drop off of 6 million to the next wide receiver, to DJ Moore. Like, that's 6 mil. 6 milli. 6 milli might not sound like a lot to us when we try to like conceptualize like, oh, it's an NFL team, they print money, and it's Deebo Samuel. Why wouldn't you pay him? Why wouldn't you pay him the market value, the market rate of what these other wide receivers are going for? Why is this such a hard situation? Again, if the 49ers went into this offseason with a number that they felt comfortable in paying, I can almost guarantee you that number is not a part of the negotiation anymore because of the deals that have been cut with Tyreek, Devontae, and Diggs. Those three wide receivers, if you want, you can throw Christian Kirk into the mix, but those three wide receivers, like DJ Moore looked a lot more reasonable when DJ Moore got his contract, and there's a 20 million on average per year. You're like, yeah, Deebo could get in probably a little bit higher than that. Oh, but then Tyreek got paid, Adams got paid, Diggs got paid, and now it's like that landscape looks a lot different now. That landscape looks a lot different. So what are the 49ers going to do? Are they going to meet the raising price, or are they going to make a different move? And let's look at the past. The 49ers traded DeForest Buckner. Why? Because they didn't like his number. DeForest Buckner, arguably, at the time of being traded, you could argue that Defoe was more important, like an overall figure, just based on how long he'd been in the organization, what he had been through, and the leadership that he provided. Not only, the production on the field, but all the intangible aspects that DeForest Buckner brought to the table. You could argue that DeForest was a more, I don't want to say impactful or valuable, but you could make the argument that maybe we value Defoe a little bit more at the time that he was traded. Joe Staley's came out and talked about it. He came out and said he was passing the torch to Defoe in regards to like leader of the locker room. He was gonna. It was Joe Staley, and he was gonna pass it to Defoe after he retired. But Defoe got traded. So, and why did he get traded? It wasn't because he didn't do the hard work. It wasn't because he wasn't a great locker room presence. It wasn't because he wasn't good on the field. It's because the number was too high. And I just want people to remember that when we have this conversation about Deebo Samuel, when we look at the market for wide receivers. Why did Defoe get traded? Not because he wasn't a good player, not because he wasn't hurt all the time, not because he wasn't a good. He got traded because of the number. So, if there's a number that Deebo is dead set on hitting, and the 49ers are like, bro, you're crazy. They're like 30 mil? Like I have no idea what he's asking for. I mean, you had some of his boys coming out today, like joking and kind of mocking the 25 million that was reported from Tony Pauline. We don't know, dude. You had the post from his homie that said, if it ain't 25 million, we don't want it. So, and that's just average. That's not guaranteed money. So, we're talking about the average right now, but let's talk about the guarantees. Let's talk about the guarantees. Let's talk about the guarantees for a little bit. And let's try to put it into contextual reference. So, these are the top 5 contracts that the 49ers have handed out underneath the Kyle Shanahan regime. Shout out Akash from Niners Nation for pulling these numbers. So starting at the bottom, these are the top 5. Like this is the most guaranteed money that the 49ers have given to any player since Kyle has taken over. I'm sure you guys have seen these numbers already, but we're going to go over it. Fred Warner, 27 million guaranteed. George Kittle, I think Akash came back and corrected this. I think it was at 40 million guaranteed. Eric Armstead, 34 million guaranteed. Trent Williams, 40 million guaranteed. The most money, guaranteed money that the San Francisco 49ers have given out was to Jimmy Garoppolo at 48.7 million. Now, why is that important? Because, okay, like we're not going to like get into the nuance of those deals. All we're using them are as reference points. And if the highest deal that contained guaranteed money went to the quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, at the time, who was franchise, and they gave him 48.7. That's the highest that they've given out, according to Akash. Then you look at Tyreek Hill's 72.2 million guaranteed. Oh. And then you look at Devontae Adams, 65 million guaranteed. Oh. Stephon Diggs got 70 million guaranteed. Woo. That's a lot of cash, baby. And again, historically, what are we looking at? Can you rationalize the San Francisco 49ers paying Trent Williams 40 million guaranteed, George Kittle 40 million guaranteed, and then turn around and give Deebo 60 million guaranteed? Give Deebo 55 million guaranteed? Would that still be considered not enough? Because again, you have there's another thing at play here that we don't really talk about. These players, they're fighting for other players. They're fighting for the next contract. Huge reason why George Kittle was dead set on a $15 million per year average, because he knew he had the power to reset the tight end market, and he had to do that. He had to get that 15. It was reported that the 49ers wanted to give him 13, and he said no. And they went, from my understanding, they went back and forth all the way until training camp. And you remember, George was a good soldier. He showed up to training camp, and they got the deal done right then and there. Got him the $15 million average, got him 40 million guaranteed, and he reset the tight end market. And you've seen the deals. I think Travis Kelce got signed to an extension almost immediately after George Kittle got hit with his contract extension. There's a domino effect that occurs. And so that's what Deebo is a part of. He's a part of a domino effect that has happened. And now the 49ers have to decide if they're going to keep playing that game or they're not. And based on looking at Deebo unfollowing the 49ers, scrubbing his page, again, understanding what I know of Deebo, understanding that I know he knows this game. I know I feel confident in saying that he wouldn't do that unless it was to this point that I think it's at, where Deebo and the 49ers aren't seeing eye to eye in that regard. And so what is Deebo saying? All right, well, someone else going to give me that money? Either someone else is going to give me that money or you're going to give me that money. Who's it going to be? And that's really what I feel like's at play. Now, the 49ers have an opportunity to give him that money, but will they? And that's where I get concerned. That's where I get concerned about the situation, is because back to the Defoe situation, Defoe did not get moved for anything other than the dollar amount. And if Deebo Samuel is asking for 60 million or above, guaranteed, that I think is going to cause the San Francisco 49ers to be like, oh, that's a lot. And I don't know if the 49ers, looking at their past history, how they've handled Gore, Defoe, Kittle, Fred, all these guys pushing it to the wire. And Deebo is not allowing that to happen. Deebo straight up put his foot down and said, hell to the no. We are not playing this game. We're playing my game. And so that to me is cause for concern, because he's based, to me, how I'm perceiving it, is Deebo is basically telling the 49ers that I am getting my value, whether it's from you or from another team. That is how I'm perceiving this. And that then becomes concerning, because I know the 49ers. I don't know them. I clearly cover them and watch their every move and am able to take those moves and put them onto linear timelines and be able to look back and reference, like, hey, back here when they ran into the X, Y, and Z similar situations, this is how they've operated. So it's going to be wild. And again, the timing to me matters, because if Deebo were to do this after the draft, what are you trading for? You're not trading for 2023 picks. Those aren't going to help you win a championship in 2022. That's not going to help you do anything. If someone wants to get Deebo onto their roster now, they're going to take the picks for this draft that's coming in less than a month, and they're going to throw an entire haul at the 49ers and say, bet. So to me, that's not a place of comfort. To me, that's not something where I'm like, oh yeah, it's just gonna get done. No worries. It's par for the course. It's just social media. Who cares about social media? Do you not realize the world runs off social media yet? Have we not connected that dot yet? That the world basically revolves around social media now? Have we not connected that? So listen, I believe that Deebo Samuel unfollowing the San Francisco 49ers and scrubbing his page is cause for concern. Legitimate cause for concern. The continuous behavior that has been coming down the line since then is also cause for concern. The timing is also cause for concern. The market is cause for concern. So, do we not see all the red flags? Like they're popping up everywhere. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. I would love to come on here and tell you everything's going to be great. Hashtag pay Deebo Samuel. Hashtag pay Deebo Samuel. Woo, pay Deebo Samuel. Oh, no, it's past pay Deebo. The hashtag don't care. Hashtag. Ain't no one care about no hashtag now. That boy went from 0 to 100. He went 0 to 100. And now, unless he gets the bag, how do you reconcile this? How do you reconcile this drama? It's been a week. This is my first time talking about it. I've seen all of Twitter. Like, holy hell. I'm just saying, there's red flags everywhere. And if you are, if you're objectively looking at this situation and you're looking at it in a vacuum of, oh, Deebo unfollowing the 49ers isn't a big deal, then agree to disagree, because this to me is a huge deal. Huge deal. Justin says, I feel like every day Deebo isn't signed, the offers for him increase. 100%, dude. 100%. And so you also have to think about it. The draft is rapidly approaching. The draft will be here before you know it. You're seeing the posturing already. Oh, Kyle Hamilton's falling. Oh, the Panthers want to trade back from 6. Like, the posturing is happening. Teams are going to be making moves. Teams are going to be looking to get better. And I think, as we've seen, look at the Rams. What have the Rams proven? F them picks. Go get the proven commodity. Give them the bag if you can afford it, and make your team better now, not better in 3 years. Better now. So you got teams out there like the Jets who got picks and money, and they know him. Picks, money, they know him. Picks, money, they know him. You got Matt LaFleur running the – is it Matt LaFleur? You got one of the LaFleurs running the offense over there. Of course, you got Saleh as the head coach. Lots of 49ers ties over there. Lakin just signed. We know they got tons of 49ers over there. And of everything we've heard, the Jets struck out on trying to get one of these wide receiver ones. I ain't sleeping well at night. Like, I am not sleeping well at night. No sirree. If your team keep Deebo Samuel, if your team hashtag pay Deebo Samuel, if your team keep Deebo Samuel at all costs, and you're sleeping well at night, I don't know how you are. I'm just gonna say that. If you are like one of these people, and rightfully so, want to keep Deebo Samuel on the team, on the roster, keep him on the 49ers forever because he's goated, and you're sleeping well at night, respect to you, my brothers. Respect to you. I don't know how you're sleeping well. I'm not sleeping well. But thankfully I was on vacation, so I just kind of blocked that out of my head, and now I'm finally getting all my thought processes out of here. out of this thing that is known for hyper processing information. So, hey, one of the cool things about ADHD, yeah, you get distracted a lot, but this thing's really good at hyper processing. It's also really good at connecting dots and tracking trends. So, shout out ADHD. Although it sucks in some categories, things like this where you can literally take 3 years worth of social media essentially input from one player and drop it on a linear timeline and be able to reference points all the way back to before he was a 49er to now. Shout out ADHD. Shout out ADHD. Let's go. So let's try this again. And Cap says Team Ayuk. Oh. Oh boy. Oh boy. So what do you guys think? If you guys have been here and you've heard me kind of ramble and kind of work my way through this thought process, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Well, that's good because I also believe I'm dyslexic as well. So I got all the things. So what are we thinking? What are we thinking? Do do as so again, we look at all the information. We look at it all and now how do we feel? How do we feel? Do the 49ers are they going to meet Deebo at that threshold of 60 million guaranteed? Are they going to give him that $25 million average contract or more? Is that going to occur? Or has the 49ers made it clear that that is going to be a hard number to hit? And Deebo knows, well, if he's going to get that contract, the best time is to get it now, not next year, now. And if it's not going to come from the 49ers, well, it better be coming from someone or somewhere. Does that mean he gets traded? I don't know. Maybe a team like the Jets does offer him, let's say, gets that far and they actually are talking numbers with a different team other than the 49ers. The 49ers could match. The 49ers could be like, all right, we see your point. You're worth a lot and teams are willing to pay for it. We're willing to pay for it. So, all right. It's just going to be very, very interesting. And I don't think the franchise tag ain't an option. You can't even franchise Deebo this year. You'd have to franchise him next year. And I don't think Deebo is playing. I don't think Deebo is playing on his rookie contract this year. I just don't see it happening. I don't see him showing up to minicamp. I don't see him showing up to OTAs. I don't see him showing up to training camp unless a deal is done. Let's see. Corey says, I say keep him, but some fans are acting like there's no risk in retaining Deebo at that price. Everyone's got a price. Rachel says it would suck to see him leave, but we'll always love him. Love to see him succeed, just like Frank Gore. I would hate to see Deebo leave. The fact that we're even talking about this like a week ago, like I would have been like, yeah, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, for sure. Oh, look at this. Right on time. All right. So this is a report per so multiple league sources say they would not be surprised at all if one of the big four wide receivers, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, or Terry McLaurin, are traded by or on draft weekend. What are we just talking about? What are we just talking about? Again, I don't think Deebo scrubbing his account was a like 100% message to the 49ers. I think it was a smoke signal to the rest of the NFL like I'm available. So we'll see. We'll see. I would imagine though, the 49ers would have to get a haul. Like a haul. Like I don't even know what that would look like. He's one of the most dynamic players in the NFL right now in the prime of his career. Like what a the 49ers, I would imagine, to trade Deebo would have to get an immense return on that investment. So we'll see, man. We will see. Cap says Ray McLeod, the new Deebo. Sounds like Cap's over Deebo. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. Why can't we have nice things, man? That's all I want. I just want nice things. I want to know who our quarterback one is. I want to know that we're going to retain our star players. I would like to know those things. But it just feels like, to be honest, just feels like we're going to kind of be in this world for a little bit. Just feels like as we get closer and closer to the draft, again, a report just came through as we just got done talking about it. League sources will not be surprised to see one of these 4 wide receivers taken in the 2019 NFL draft that are up for contract extensions getting traded. If we had to go down the list, I really think A.J. Brown would stay with the Tennessee Titans. DK Metcalf does seem like he is available. DK Metcalf does feel like they're going through like a whole just like major rebuild. And, maybe decaf. Maybe decaf does become available. Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin's a GOAT, but is Washington going to pay him? Washington's sketch. Washington's in trouble. Dan Snyder about to have his team taken from him. Last thing they're worried about right now is paying Terry McLaurin. Right now, Snyder's trying to hold his team from getting taken from him. So it is what it is. But it does feel like this is the new norm. We thought Jimmy was going to get traded, and then it's like, oh no, Jimmy's not getting traded. Oh, I haven't talked about it yet. But so Frank Gore's interesting to listen to talk about the 49ers. Frank Gore's pretty he's pretty interesting to listen to talk about the 49ers because, I'll give him a pass, if it was just the way he worded it. But the way he worded it, this being Frank Gore about Jimmy Garoppolo, is he was like, the 49ers had a deal in place for Jimmy, and then he got the surgery. And again, I'm taking it with a grain of salt. I don't know if that's what he meant to say. I don't know if that's, what he meant. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it could have he's just explaining the situation about Jimmy Garoppolo and the shoulder surgery and how he believes the shoulder surgery has really made a huge impact on his trade value. And essentially, Frank Gore, I don't know if it was just a slip, a weird use of words, but it was like he made it the way he described it was like the 49ers had a deal for Jimmy, and then Jimmy got surgery. And then it killed the deal. And then everyone just moved off of Jimmy at that point. So it's just like, it's one thing. If it's not one thing, it's another thing. Like, it's insane. This has been going on for over a year. It's been wild. It's been a wild ride. Absolute wild ride. So, like, what are we doing? I don't know. What are we doing? Again, this came out earlier today. This was from Tony Pauline, Pro Football Network. Deebo Samuel is reporting looking for 25 million per year. We'll see. We'll see. And again, all that issue, all the drama from yesterday. Deebo said, "Train your mind to be calm in every situation." That seems pretty appropriate to the situation at hand, but of course, it could mean many different things, many different things. So we're still here, though. We're still here. We are still here with Deebo. Scrub a dub in his Instagram. Scrub a dub in his Instagram. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Scrub a dub it is. Scrub a dub it is, but just know that oh gosh. Like, I know he knows. I know he knows. I know he knows. I know Deebo is smart enough to know what is going on. How this would be perceived by the fan base. He that's not even he doesn't I don't even think he cares about that. Literally don't think Deebo cares about how this is being perceived from the fan base. I think Deebo what was ultimately after is the bag. And will he get it? There could be a big gap. There could be. But it is, it is what it is, man. It's a weird situation. But I'm of, and again, trying to tie it back, I'm of the mindset that this isn't normal. This isn't par for the course. This isn't normal contract negotiations because it's not. And if you think it is, then what reference points are you pulling from? Because Kyler did it just a second ago and got roasted by everyone. Like, it's not the norm. This isn't normal behavior for NFL players to kind of, it's becoming normal ground, but it's not normal ground yet. Just because a couple players have used social media, that's the point, though. They're starting to see how they can completely So take it for what it's worth. I won't feel good until the report comes across that Deebo Samuel has signed with 49ers. Until then, I don't want to be I say a bunch, like, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that situation. I would not want to be a fly on the wall in those negotiations. Nope. Not at all. Not at all. Because based on the way Frank Gore talked about it, the way Frank Gore, because again, Frank Gore said he sat in on those meetings, and players don't typically sit in on those meetings. That's not something that typically occurs, where you have your agents go do the negotiating. And so what Frank Gore was explaining about how the negotiation process works is, when you're on the 49ers side, what are you doing? You're trying to make the case of why you shouldn't pay X player what they want. So put that into a little bit of context. So Deebo Samuel's going into these negotiations with the wide receiver market skyrocketing and heading into a situation with the 49ers where they're going to pinpoint and point out every injury he's ever had, and any misstep he's ever had, the fact that he's only in year 3. Like, they are going to rip him apart. Rip him apart. You're always injured. Now, he made it through last year. I think he only missed one game, but we also understand that he had to will his way through a couple of those games. He was banged up. And I think by the end he was really banged up, but he was just Deeboing it, straight dog mentality, playing through injury, like a boss, like that he is. But gosh, it's just it's an interesting situation, man. It really is. It's a really, really interesting situation. And it's something that I don't think is cut and dry. Don't think this is cut and dry. So it's gonna see. We're gonna see. What else you guys want to talk about? This is like the Raheem contract negotiation. Great point. Do you remember? Do you remember what Raheem Mostert was trying to get, and essentially asked for a trade because the 49ers wouldn't give it to him? He was the running back one, RB1, heading into the year. He signed his original deal as a special teams player, around $2 million. All Raheem Mostert wanted was his original contract to be fully guaranteed. That was it. 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 And that was a task. That was a task to give him that. They did it. They eventually did it, but it took Raheem Mostert's agent requesting a trade on Twitter to get a $2 million plus contract fully guaranteed that he had already signed. He just wanted it guaranteed because he was RB1. He wasn't a special teams player anymore. He signed the contract as a special teamer. He was now entering the year as RB1, and they could barely get that done. That's what I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, use the past to shape the future. If you look at the past, you look at the way this team negotiates, you look at the struggles within negotiation, you hear it all the time from players. Come correct. The 49ers, from what we've heard, from greats to Gore to whoever in between, coming correct isn't, from what we've heard, something they do often. This is another example of that. So again, does that make you feel good? Now, they're completely different players, completely different points in their careers, but it's another thing to think about. Another thing to think about. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I actually think when it comes to, if we want to transition a little bit, I don't think it's going to be Banks like just walks in. I think they're going to go to the draft again. This is a phenomenal draft for interior offensive linemen, tackles, just amazing. So I would imagine that they are going to go back to the well, potentially take 2 offensive linemen, 1 interior, 1 tackle, and I think there's going to be a healthy competition on that offensive line in camp. And now Aaron Banks will have a leg up on some other competition because now he has a full year in the system. He's played a full year in the league. And Hopefully, he can take that next step, take over, fill in at left guard for Laken Tomlinson. But we gotta wait and see. We gotta wait and see. Um, it's going to be very interesting to see, what happens with the rest of the offensive line. So, Ken says Parham. He likes Parham from Kentucky. I see Joey talking about him as well. Dylan Parham looks like a guy who's ready to play today. I like Parham, but I definitely do like other interior offensive line prospects over him at this point. His running mate at center, Luke Fortner, is another guy that could be in potential play for the 49ers, but I also like other interior offensive linemen above them. I think they are definitely going to be starting caliber offensive linemen taken in this class, but I think there are some other guys that are better than both of them in this class. But it's a good class. Like, it's a good class. It's a good class. Did I say something other than Memphis? If I did, I apologize. Again, I'm working on no sleep at this point. So this is a guy that I do want to look into. I have not looked into Zach Tom yet. But I saw an interesting stat. So I'm a big Abe Lucas guy out of Washington State. He was a guy that I went through the whole draft crush in real time at the combine. I'm sitting there watching the offensive linemen get warmed up, and I see this one guy walking around. Who the hell is that? And there's Abe Lucas just looking all pissed off. Turns out he goes and performs amazingly well at the combine. I had no idea who he was. And then I throw on the tape, and at Washington State, he was phenomenal. And there's still a ton of upside there. Well, I think out of all eligible, I don't have it in front of me. I wish I did. I think out of all eligible draft eligible tackles, Abraham Lucas had the second highest passer rating. Or what was it? Passer rating, pass protect. God, see, I wish I had it in front of me. Anyways, whatever the metric was, I think it was. It wasn't passer rating. Now it's gonna bug me. Now I have to find it. But anyways, the metric was in regards to pass protection. Abe Lucas was number 2. Oh, here it is. All right. So career pass blocking grade when removing screens and quick game. Zach Tom was a 96.2. That was the whole point into talking about Abraham Lucas. Zach Tom was a 96.2. Abraham Lucas was an 89.6. And then you had Bernhard Raymond out of Central Michigan at 86.8. Kellen Deesh out of ASU is a guy that I really like. Again, just from scouting Donovan West, I fell onto Kellen Deesh and Rashad White. Kellen Deesh was at 85.2. Evan Neal, 78. Charles Cross, 69.9. Iquanu, 63.3. So Zach Tom, Abraham Lucas have the 2 best pass blocking grades out of the entire tackle class. Let's see. But yeah, I do want to look into Zach Tom. I haven't looked at him yet. I haven't looked at him. Justin's trying to get Leo Chanel with Chris Kursek, and I actually would not mind seeing that. I would not mind seeing that after what Justin's kind of showed me a little bit of kind of his vision for Leo. I see it. That dude looks different. He's a linebacker, but he kind of looked like a defensive lineman. Dude's built different. Um, I don't know who this is, but I think he's trying to troll us, but that was kind of funny. I like that one. That was a good one. If you're trying to troll Niner fans, that was a good one. I like that one. Oh yeah, Donovan West, that's my boy. Donovan West, Cam Jurgens, those guys are legit. Those guys are legit. So it's gonna be interesting. And dude, are the 49ers trading? That's the wildest thing though. Like if they like let's say the 49ers trade with the Jets or something, like what the hell? Like we could the 49ers could potentially look in a completely different like draft breakout if they were to move Deebo. That that would be crazy, dude. I guess let's ask the chat. Let's pull the chat. Oh, before we get into it, really quick. Yes. So the story on Donovan West, he played left guard at ASU for 3 years, and then he made the transition to center. Um, but I think he profiles best as a center. I think he's legit center. Um, I think he's legit. They pull him all the time. I've talked about it quite a bit. I just have this vision of Kyle using his center as a puller to again trigger misdirection. He hasn't done it yet, but like I keep thinking about it. Just keep thinking about it. I want to see that center getting out in front, pulling, and then eventually linebackers and safeties will start keying on that. And if he starts keying on that, then you can do all kinds of misdirection off of that. All kinds of stuff. But yeah, we'll see. It's just it's a crazy April, man. It's a crazy April. Um, what do you guys think? Do you think Deebo's getting traded? Do you think he's getting signed? Drop it in the chat. Let's pull the chat. If you haven't already, smash that like button. Let me know if you think this is just it's just gamesmanship. This is just, the new age of contract negotiating. Do you think there are red flags here? Maybe ultimately get the deal done? Or is there real concern with, Deebo landing that contract that he wants? Um, oh, first one we have do not pay Deebo. JC says traded. Victoria says signed. Justin says I think he gets traded. I hope he's signed. Ken says signed. Could the Niners trade Deebo and Jimmy together? Don't make me start galaxy braining a trade with the Panthers. Just don't do it. Don't force me into that corner. I know it's something that I will eventually do, but I haven't done it yet. But if you had to ask me a Deebo Jimmy potential trade to maybe with the Panthers, maybe that's really the only team that I could see willing to do both. Um, because other than that, no one's going to be wanting to trade for that contract. I just think the shoulder gets talked about a lot. It's the money too. It's the money too. No one wants to pay Jimmy. Oh boy. Let's see what else everyone's saying. Let's see. Daniel says if he's wanting that much, it's not worth it for a player taking up that much cap space that's not a quarterback or a left tackle. But you also have to remember the cap is going to go up more and more and more. So I think this is like, yeah, and I think kind of these deals that we see from the other wide receivers could be a part of that. Like we anticipate the cap is going to go up exponentially over the next 2 years. So maybe they're kind of looking at it kind of a long term situation. JM says Deebo owns the Rams. Pay him. Traded 40 million guaranteed max is the deal breaker. Ooh, if 40 million guaranteed is the deal breaker, you better start packing up Deebo Samuel's bags right now, because Deebo Samuel, in my opinion, is not playing for the San Francisco 49ers on 40 million guaranteed. I just can't see it. Like, I can't see it. I can't see it when you compare him to Tyreek, when you compare him to Adams, when you compare him to Diggs. I just can't see it. Like, if that's your threshold, then you might need to start packing that boy's bags for him, because I don't think 40 million is going to get it done. I don't. If I'm representing Deebo, 40 million ain't getting it done. If I'm representing Deebo and they come to me with 40 million guaranteed, I'm scrubbing his Instagram page too. Like that's the part of it. Like, if I'm having to put myself in the business side of things, remove fandom, remove team bias, remove the logo, and think of this purely as a business transaction where we're getting deals done. If I'm on Deebo's side and they offer us 40 mil and they're like, we're not going above 40 million guaranteed, do you know what I'm telling Deebo? Scrub your Instagram, scrub everything, start subtweeting like a mother, and let's get someone to offer you, because we know the market is ripe and that someone will pay that. Someone will give you 60 million guaranteed. It doesn't have to be the 49ers, because at this point, like I said, the logo, the fandom, the bias, out the door. This is business. This is business. So if I'm representing Deebo and they come to me with 45 mil guaranteed, like, because he can get 60 mil. That's the problem. That therein lies the problem here, is Deebo can get 60 million guaranteed. He might not be able to get it from the 49ers, but he can get it from someone else. And that's where we should all be on edge, in my opinion. Because like I said, if I'm representing Deebo and the 49ers aren't meeting us near that 65, 60 minimum guaranteed threshold, we're going to go get it from someone else. Because guess what? Just like we talked about how Deebo is going to be responsible for also helping AJ Brown get paid. They have the same agent. They have the same agent. Like, Justin says, that's why I see him being traded. They've never given anything close to that guaranteed. Boom. To anyone, not even Jimmy or Trent Williams. And we just think that the 49ers are going to be like, you know what? What's an extra 15 million guaranteed? They're not cutting Jimmy over 7.5 million. You think an extra 15? Oh, trust me. Trust me. They're not cutting Jimmy over 7.5. What makes you think they're just going to be like, what's an extra 15 million? Like, Yeah, yikes. Yikes. I don't like it. I don't like it. Someone take me away from here. Why can't we have nice things, man? Good point. Joey Nichols says Deebo can't get 60 mil from someone else when he's under contract with 49ers. You're right, he can't. But if he shows to the world that he doesn't like the 49ers anymore and he demands a trade amidst contract negotiations, what are you going to do? That's why I think the timing of this is so interesting, is because it's happening before the draft. And like I said, if it happened after the draft, it's more just like I think it has less impact, but because it's before the draft, that terrifies me. Terrifies me. I don't want that man to leave. And again, you can't franchise him. You cannot franchise him. So what you're going to be dealing with again, and so to kind of talk about what Joey's saying, I'd play hardball. What hardball looks like, I think, is where they're at, where Deebo does not like where this is going, and so he's put his foot in the ground. And if they don't trade him, and he's still on the roster come after the draft, I don't think he's going to get moved. If he makes it through the draft, I feel much better. If he makes it through the draft, my anxiety's going down, my concern levels are going down. I'm like, okay, made it through the draft. Okay, now we can breathe and we understand kind of training camp becomes the target point. Someone says, why can't you franchise him? He's not a free agent. He's not a free agent. He still has another year on his contract. So you can only franchise free agents. So that's why you can't. He's not a free agent right now. He's still on his rookie deal. He's setting into year 4 of his rookie deal. The 49ers could literally say, play on your rookie deal. We want one more year. We want to see one more year before we give you 60 million guaranteed. I believe Deebo said, I'm looking to get 60 million now. Because what happens if Deebo plays, breaks his foot for a third time? You think someone's going to pay him 60 million guaranteed? If Deebo breaks his foot for a third time, is someone going to give him 60 million guaranteed? Nope. Not even close. Not even close. And for that reason alone, Deebo Samuel will not step onto that football field without a new contract. And the way we're seeing it progress, it's not in our favor. It's not. At least that's how I'm perceiving it. Again, it's how I'm perceiving it. I don't think it's headed in the right direction. There's not a lot of options. Not a lot of options. So you can play hardball, but if you play hardball past the draft and you have no intention of giving him the deal that he wants, that's just going to be. Ooh. I can't imagine that playing out well. I can't see that. I can't see that playing out well, because Deebo's gonna be like, I ain't showing up to nothing. You need a running back? You need a wide receiver? You need a returner? That ain't me. Oh, I guess that's a good point. So that actually might be a good point. I don't know how that works. I'm not gonna pretend like I do. Peyton said, Aponte said they're not allowed to hold out anymore with the new CBA deal. I kind of remember that when the new CBA was struck. So there may be a point to that. There may be a point to that, or there probably is a point to that. Aponte's a smart man. So again, still interesting though. Oh yeah, that's it. I think they gash you more, right? They gash you more. I'd have to go look into that a little bit further, to be honest. Yeah, I think he will. But again, how much money are you going to lose if you break that foot one more time? That's millions, not thousands. So it's a business decision, right? It's a business decision. So we'll see. We'll see, man. It's a sucky situation. So we'll look into this a little bit further. Again, Aponte's on point with all his stuff, so I would imagine he's going to have a real good thought process on that. I haven't looked that far. I haven't really rationalized the holdout yet because I don't think it will get there. I really think it's like I think we're at the make or break point. I feel like it's either he's going to be on this team or he's not, and we have until the draft to decide that. And it kind of feels like that's the deadline. It feels like the deadline is the draft. Feels like that's the deadline for Jimmy and Deebo now. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I agree. I agree with this 100%. Like, I agree. Like, why? I hate personally having to run through all the scenarios and then try to make it make sense and then land on like what makes sense to me is like not favorable for my team. You know what I mean? Like not like I feel like I try to be very rational with the like especially with like these types of things, especially when we're talking business, like business has no time for emotions. Business has no time for your feelings. Like, oh, you feel bad? Like money's money. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Doesn't matter what form of work you're in. Money is money. And there's a certain way you go about getting it. And at a certain point, there's no emotions involved. You can let emotions get involved, but that's when things can get a little crazy. If you start getting emotional about some contracts you're trying to get closed off, or hey, we've all been there. If you ever worked in sales, if you ever worked in that side of the industry in any form, you know what it's like. You know what it's like. So at a certain point, you got to be about those dollars, baby. Got to be about those dollars. All right, enough of that. Enough of that. You're on timeout. Go sit on timeout. We're not doing none of that here. We are not. So, Bill says DK or Deebo. Who would I take? I would take Deebo in a heartbeat. No, I think DK is a really good receiver, but I believe that Deebo is much more dynamic. He's much more dynamic. I think DK is really good, man. Don't get it twisted. I think DK is really good. Um, but Deebo for sure. Deebo for sure. I don't think Bosa is gonna say a word. I don't think Bosa's built like that. I don't. even if there was like some issues, I've tracked Deebo and his social media presence since before he was a 49er. I'm not surprised at all. If Bosa were to do this and Bosa were to scrub the 49ers and pull them off, I would be like, whoa. Like, oh, Bosa? Like, I'm not surprised by Deebo. But Bosa? I'll be like, ooh, sound the sirens. Fire up all the pay Nick Bosa hashtags. I would be like, holy hell. I'd be like, oh boy. Like, because I don't perceive Bosa to go about his business that way. Deebo goes about his business in a very specific way. And so with how kind of bullish he is, just his personality, the way he plays football, I think that's gonna translate into how he negotiates his contract. He's gonna go into that contract and be like, I'm the best. Pay me like that. And if you're not, okay, I'm not gonna play games. I really believe Deebo's like that. I'm not gonna play games. You're gonna play games with me? That's fine. I'm gonna go find someone who's gonna pay me. I don't think, and so I would be shocked to see Bosa say anything. I just don't think that's like in his nature. And on top of that, I feel like Bosa has a much better chance of getting what he wants because of the position that he plays. And when we start talking about positional value, when we start talking about edge, when we start talking about how much importance and emphasis the 49ers put into the trenches, into the defensive line, what I just that's that's a tough one, but I don't know, maybe I'm biased because I'm a trench guy. But in those kinds of instances, I will typically lean trench because, in my opinion, it's harder to find a Nick Bosa. And I want to preface this because I'm talking about two unicorns. I'm talking about Nick Bosa, unicorn, and I'm talking about Deebo Samuel, unicorn. They're both unicorns. Like the way that Deebo plays with his physicality, the toughness, the mindset, the skill set, the athletic traits, everything, you're not going to find. You're not going to find that very often. But you can replicate it. You can replicate the production from a wide receiver position. I think a little bit. Again, I'm trying because I think they're both unicorns. But I think you look at the draft. I mean, look at the classes of wide receivers that are flooding into the NFL. Feels like every class is just better and deeper, and like the Christian Watsons and the Chris Olaves and like just the constant freaking like wave of wide receiver talent is much different than edge talent. So I don't know. It's a tough spot to be in, man. It's a pretty tough spot to be in. And so again, like I think that's why this is concerning because like William says, Deebo needs to be patient like Bosa when it comes to the contract. He isn't. He's not being patient because he wants it now. And because he wants it now, could create problems for his long-term cohesion with the 49ers. Oh, thank you, my boy. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. That was the easiest hour and 40 minutes I think I've ever done. Again, speaking of patient, let's hope the deal is done by August. Let's hope. Let's just hope. Again, let's just hope Deebo's on the roster after the draft. If Deebo is on this roster like May 3rd, I'll feel significantly better. I'll feel significantly better because I perceive the situation where for a team to get Deebo, they're going to have to throw high draft capital. 2023 picks isn't going to do it. The draft is coming up in weeks. And if someone throws 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders, and agrees to pay his contract, that's what scares me. That's what makes me nervous. Is not only do you find the suitor to give you the compensation that you need, but most importantly, Deebo gets the deal that he wants. And if that occurs, I'm terrified. Terrified. Cap says you need your offense to rely on the quarterback, not the wide receiver. Notice the good teams traded their wide receiver away to lesser teams. Maybe part of that has to do with the incoming class of wide receiver crop and how it is just not stopping. It is waves and waves of wide receivers. What is becoming the rarity? The edge continues to be rarity. O-line continues to be rarity when it comes to top tier talent. With wide receivers, we are seeing depth. Like you got your Traylon Burks, your Chris Olave, your Garrett Wilsons, like your top tier echelon. You can even put a lot of people are putting Sky Moore into that territory, but you got, Khalil Shakir, you have David Bell, there's so many wide receivers. Danny Gray, I love Danny Gray. Like there are so many. We didn't even mention Christian Watson. Like there's so many wide receivers. There are so many wide receivers. So that's again another disadvantage to the 49ers getting a deal done with Deebo. Because I think this is a good point. There's a reason Tyreek got traded. There's a reason. Devontae Adams seemed to have a falling out with Green Bay. Stephon Diggs retained. Tyreek traded. But there's a lot of good wide receivers in this class, man. Might not be another Deebo, but you can like pair together a couple players to maybe hopefully like give you that impact. But then again, do you really want your offense funneling through one skill position? Probably not. You probably want it to be more balanced. You probably want it to have an opportunity to spread the ball around, get the ball to Ayuk more, get the ball to Kittle more, get the ball to Mitchell more, get the ball to Juwan Jennings more. So it's tough, man. It's tough. It's not going to be a fun day if we get that alert, from Shefty that, a deal was done. It's going to suck. Like, no matter how much you get, it's going to suck. But I this is another good point to be like why we should be concerned. Gross. Justin says, look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. I loved Amon-Ra, man. I loved Amon-Ra St. Brown. No one was talking about him coming out of USC. Loved him coming out of the class that he did. So him having the success that he has, I'm not surprised at all. I'm gonna go ahead and be one of those guys that was like, I told you so. Told you so. There's a reason why I was tweeting so much about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Because dude's legit. He's legit. Kind of Danny Gray like. Kind of Danny Grayish. Kinda. None of them play like Deebo. True. Wandale Robinson. Kind of like Deebo. Now, is he going to have the same physicality? No. He's smaller, I think, from Memphis. But he's got kind of similar skill set. He has that kind of physical mindset. Now, he might not have the frame that Deebo has, but you see the running ability, you see the vision. So Wandale Robinson, there are guys that play like Deebo. What makes Deebo Kentucky? Thank you. I always get Memphis and Kentucky swapped. I think I've done that twice today. What makes Deebo is his mentality, who he is, his heart, his soul. How do you replicate that? It's hard. It's really hard. That's why you scout. You're not only trying to find the physical traits, you're trying to find the intangibles that make these guys great. What makes Deebo great is his intangibles. The intangible mindset, the intangible drive to be great is what makes Deebo great. Not everyone has that. They don't. A lot of people skate on their talent. A lot of people just believe because they're talented, things will just come their way. Danny Grayhive buzzing, baby. Let's go. And again, another great point. I do feel like Deebo, the way he played and the production in which he had. Now, I still think he would get production if you used him more as a prototypical wide receiver, because I think he was trending that way. I think he was one of the leading wide receivers in reception yards until he made that switch. But the offense should look different, and we know that. What did we see when Trey Lance came in against Arizona? Offense looked entirely different. What did we see against the Texans? Looked entirely different than what Jimmy was doing. Now, was Deebo still successful? Of course he was. You had Trey hit that nice play action boot and then just drop that deep bomb to Deebo Samuel. But guess what? He's going to be able to do that with Ayuk. He's going to be able to do that with Juwan Jennings. He's going to be able to do that with a lot more other guys where I think they relied so heavily on Deebo to literally be the offense. Just because I know why. But why can't we have nice things? If we could sign either Jason Verrett or Tart, who would I focus on? Probably Tart, just because he's healthier, a little younger. I would imagine you probably get him similar to what the deal you had him on last year, but I don't know if he's going to want to do that because this time around they actually have someone on the roster that they paid. Last year they didn't pay anyone; they just drafted Talanoa Hufanga and brought in Tavon Austin, and and just like happened to sign Kwaski back on a really cheap 1-year deal. Well, They didn't do that this year. They threw what guaranteed around 3.5 million at Odom. That's like it's more than triple the contract that Tart got last year. So, oh, the Ernest Johnson hive is buzzing. I would love to see that, to be honest. Rams fans are so happy. Hey, I'll give it to them. I have roasted Rams fans for like 3 years straight. So, you know what? You guys want to get a couple shots in, go for it. Go for it cuz I know for a fact I have made Rams fans' life a living hell for like 3 years. Oh boy, have I roasted I think I've roasted Rams by far better than any other team. Them and their fan base. Oh man, it's so fun. But hey, all right, you guys won. Great. Let's see what happens next year. Let's see what happens next year. See what happens next year. Sean, my boy, says, have to say, Brad, so good to have you back on here. Been a bit lost looking for content. Oh, feels like missing one of the Ohana when you aren't on SDS. Shout out my boy, Sean, OG, SDS squad. Man, it's good to be back, man. It's good to be back. I'm not going to lie, needed that break. I needed it. I brought all my stuff with me, too. I brought all my stuff with me. I almost like, because hey, Deebo thing happened while I was there. I was like, I should get on. I was like, I said, no, screw that. I'm not getting on. Screw that. Screw that. I was like, nope, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it at all until I get back. Not going to talk about it at all. What's good, AM? Oh, they were so nervous. They were sweating. They were sweating. Yeah. Hey, it broke your way. Good job. It broke your way. It's all good. We know who wears the pants in the family. That's for sure. Pack Life says the Deebo stuff stresses us out, man. 100%. 100%. We were over here stressing about Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is probably one of the least of our problems. We have a quarterback on the roster. We have Trey Lance already. Like, he's there. He's running workouts with the wide receivers. Trey Lance is already on the team. So, yeah, the Jimmy thing's kind of stressful because we just got to talk about Jimmy more. But this situation is like, yikes. Ooh-wee. And also, I was, take it for what it's worth. I was tipped off to this stuff going down too before it happened. A little birdie chirpied about 6 days. About 6 days before all this stuff went down. So there's that too. Just saying. So the Deebo stuff should stress you out because that's a guy that I think we all looked at like, oh, this is going to be a 49er. They're going to get it done. It's going to be another, long, just kind of drag dragged out, whatever. Gonna get it done. Deebo has different plans. He said, I'm not waiting. Okay. Okay. So we'll see, man. We will see. What? Kittle's IG story. What's Kittle's IG story? Ah! All right, we posting that, baby. Shout out to whoever who called that one out. Oh, that's a good one. All right, hold on one second. I'll show it. Hold on one second. Let me get it posted. That was funny. What do we want? Photo. That's funny. All right, I'll pull it up in a second if you guys haven't seen it. Hold on. Bear with me. Yeah, I'll show you guys in a second. Hold on. It's not a big deal. It's funny. I just want to get it posted. Okay, hold on. I love George, dude. George is a national treasure. Protect that man at all costs, man. We're still upholding the insta block trade George Kittle rule. All right, I'll pull it up now. What did George say? Share screen, Chrome tab. Boom. All right. So George just posted this to his story. So, man, could someone just pick up this man's phone calls? Someone, like, how? What is it with our quarterbacks and just not answering this man's phone calls? What's the deal? I love this. It's so good. George Kittle's a legend, bro. George Kittle is a legend. Can't catch a break, man. Ooh, it's in the works. It's in the works. I'm working on it right now. That's all you get. It's all you get. I'm gonna do a big drop, but we're working on it right now. So just so you know, that SDS merch is in the works. So it's coming through. But I love this. Shout out George, bro. George is a legend. Legend. So someone call George back, please. Please. George, if you FaceTime me, I will answer. I probably won't. I don't answer anyone's FaceTime call, bro. You FaceTime me, I'm like, ooh. Nope. I don't like talking to people on the phone, to be honest. But hey, at least they're having fun. Shout out to George for bringing some lightness to the social media. Glad we don't get to talk. We don't have to just talk about who's getting traded. We can have some fun now. So Trey, if you're out there listening, call this man back. Call this man back. FaceTime him back. Get him on the line. Come on. Come on now. You can do it. Just call him back. So we'll see. All right, guys. We hit that 2-hour mark. I think it might be that time because you guys know I can go forever. I get caught in that ADHD hyper vortex and I just completely lose track of time. So I don't know. I felt like I have explained, my thought processes on the Deebo Samuel situation as best I can. Maybe there's some things that I've left out that'll come to me once I actually sleep. But I haven't slept today or since last night. So again, just to kind of recap, I am concerned about the Deebo situation. I am definitely not one of these people that doesn't think it's just social media. Like, nah, social media is branding. Social media is marketing. And you don't, especially if you're an athlete, especially if you're a public figure, you don't mess with those types of things. That is not something that's taken lightly, especially in 2021. So, and again, you just take that simple thought process and then you work all the information around that funnel. Yeah, it's not the best. So, like I said, I'm putting my timeline, I'm bumping it back to the draft. If Deebo Samuel is here after the draft, I will feel much, much better. But until then, I will continue to be concerned. I will continue to be reading between the lines. I will continue to be monitoring things as I monitor and connect dots as per usual. And we'll see where it goes. But I did want to come on here and just kind of give my thought processes on the entire thing. And that's kind of where I land. I am concerned. But the hope is the 49ers, Deebo Samuel, come together, get a deal done, sing Kumbaya, and we go get that 6th ring next year, pay Nick Bosa, pay the homies, keep the squad together, and keep building. That's the hope. But I also can rationalize if it doesn't go that way and if there is a breakup and something happens. So I don't want that to happen. I would much prefer that the 49ers get it done. But I also see a world that exists where it doesn't get done. So we're along for the ride, baby. We're along for the ride. Oh, good stuff. Shout out to all you guys. It was good to be back. I wish we weren't talking about drama about this team. I wish we could just be talking about how we see them building towards the draft. But hey, I guess that means we got more to talk about here in the coming days. So I should be kind of getting back to my everyday live schedule. It's kind of TBD here. I might have some more announcements coming, but stay tuned for that as well. So my schedule could be kind of weird here for the next 2 weeks, but we'll see. We'll see. Stay locked in, stay tuned. Shout out all the homies who rocked with me. Shout out to everyone who smashed that like button. Probably be back tomorrow. I'll see you all then. Until then, hashtag pay Deebo Samuel. Let's get it done. Come on. I I see you. I hear you, Jesus. We're on the same